I got my hand on the mixing board, and we're ready to roll.
Okay.
Sliding it down.
Pressure. Seriously, that's a lot of pressure for a Thursday. It is February 23rd.
Manual.
Year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. Listen to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is about to be episode 661.
661, man.
661.
Boy.
It's a little more blistery, apparently, where you are right now than it was on the previous podcast.
Yeah, I got a story, too.
Of course, I got one too yesterday. I just told you pre-call or pre-podcast. It was 60 degrees here yesterday. Absolutely gorgeous day. Woke up this morning, looked at Wonderground before I took Wobbles for a walk. 11. Feels like 11. And you wonder why everyone's sinuses and are going nuts right now. You got flowers trying to bloom one day, and the next day they're done. They're roasted. It's that time of year where it's bipolar. It's going one way. It's going to start to preload the Claritin. Get ready. Spring is coming, which is also means we're due for at least the 2 coldest weeks of the winter, which always happens after we get like a warm spell. But it's a beautiful day, sunshiny but cold. Hope you're all having a amazing week as we cap off towards the end of February. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general terms, very valuable. So we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open arms discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as coaches and athletes, but also as human beings ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at their very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the world. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question and let you right in. Amazing community, awesome people, fantastic resource. It is for anyone and everyone, as long as you're a solid individual. Great place, tons of experience, and a lot of people willing to take time out of their day to share their experience, give you some solid tips, in what can be an oftentimes very confusing and overwhelming sport. It's a great safe haven for good, solid information and banter. So be a part of that group. We'll go in there every once in a while, do a little bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. But we do have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, I need to start taking that advice.
You having a hard time on your happy and healthy endurance sports journey?
Yeah, I didn't sleep that good last night, man.
Oh, YouTubing it?
No. Went to sleep. Well, we had first of all, we had an ice storm. It started yesterday afternoon, and it was sleety kind of deal, and schools, of course, were canceled. But it was pretty gnarly, and and then it started getting colder, and it started sticking on the trees, that kind of thing.
Oh,
and about 3 a.m, I sleep upstairs here, and 3 a.m, a limb fell off the tree and landed on the house.
Oh,
and woke me. I mean, it didn't break through and everything's cool, but it sounded like a locomotive coming through. It was the weirdest thing. I woke up. I'm like, was that real? Was I dreaming? And
adrenaline dump, and you're up for a while.
Yeah, dude. And then, but I went outside to make sure there wasn't like a hole in the roof or something. Not that I could do anything about it, but my mom woke up. I'm like, what just happened? And she was looking out. She said, that tree fell. So I was like, I went out back, and I'm looking up at it, and trees, like limbs, are just falling all over the place, dude.
Before we go any further, we all, myself included, and our listeners need a visual. What are you wearing? Are you doing like full Clark Griswold? Like you got boxers on, a robe, and a hat? Like what are you rocking right now?
Boxers, robe, and flip flops.
What kind of robe? Are we talking like Hugh Hefner robe? Or are we talking like satin and silk? Or are we talking like big? Like a mink coat.
No, great. It's just a dude robe, like
it's a dude. It's
total dude robe. Yeah, it really is. Thanks, Emily. And I got so I'm out there.
It's a dude robe.
I'm seriously, dude. Shit's falling everywhere. And I'm like looking up at this and I'm like, I better get out of here or I'm going to get like, because like just little packages of leaves, or not leaves, but limbs are falling down like just randomly. Shit was crazy. So, but anyway, I didn't sleep very good after that because I was like, man, what could happen out there? Anyway, so I'm not happy and healthy on my endurance sports journey today.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm glad you survived. But listen, you're a braver man than me. I can picture you now. I'll go outside. I got it. You go outside in your man robe and boxers and hat, and you got limbs falling down. You're running like you're in the Vietnam War. There are limbs falling. Don't go outside. And your mom, she's tougher than nails. She's probably about the toughest person I know. She probably wouldn't even face. But it's good to hear no damage to the house. But hey, yeah, ice is the worst. Snow, fine. Ice, not good.
No.
But what is good is in the last 3 weeks, we have had over 100 listeners, random athletes, friends of the cast, come onto our website and get one of our free sprint and Olympic distance plans. We want to thank everyone for doing that. It's a great way to grow the sport. If you haven't listened in a while and don't know what we're talking about, we are making as best effort as we can to help grow the sport of triathlon and give away good, solid information. And again, an oftentimes confusing and daunting sport where it's popularized and marketed from basically the top down, from Ironman distance all the way to, from 70.3s. And then that's kind of it. That's the big marketing piece. Ironman is the big cog in the machine that does most of that. And most people see it and they think, I don't have time for that. I don't have the budget for that. I don't want to do that. It's going to take me 8 to 10 to 12 months just to train. If you're one of those people that goes from couch to Ironman, which people do all the time, unfortunately, this is a great way to just kind of like dip your toe right into the sport. It's the 1 mile fun run. It's the 5K. It's the 10K that are so popular. That's why running has gotten so popular the last 4 years. So again, thanks everyone for doing that. Share it. Go to the website, share the link in your local triathlon group or your favorite Facebook group page, or just with some friends and family or teammates that might be interested and just kind of don't know where to start or unsure about, getting a training plan online and spend some money on it from people they don't know. We like to sit we're friends. We're trying to do a good thing. So spread the word on that. And as always, if you're looking for a way to support the cast, while we don't do sponsorships and we'll always be ad free, the best way to support us is to go to the website, c26triathlon.com, click on the online store, and buy some swag. We get a lot of awesome stuff in there, which is running a lot lower more frequently than in the past because a lot of you have gone on and purchased water bottles, hats, swim caps, hoodies, shirts, whatever it is. And a big thank you to everyone that does that. It does mean a lot to us, and we very much appreciate it. So I just wanted to say that. A big thank you. And hey, who knows? Maybe in the next few weeks we'll have a C26 robe for sale.
I like that idea. And there's a few people in the queue, and I just want to let you know I'm shipping that today because yesterday we had an ice storm.
Yeah, he almost lost his life.
Yeah, I almost lost my life. Hey, are you training for anything right now? I'm just curious.
I'm training, and I say I'm training in like a general. I swam this week. Training. Listen. I say this in my weekly email, and I say this all the time on the podcast. And as full disclaimer, as we say very, very frequently, it's a lot easier to give the advice than it is to put it upon yourself. And you've known me longer than anybody, and I just and especially the last few years, I have a very, very hard time putting up boundaries between my time and my work. I absolutely love what I do. But it's also my life, right? It's the sport I began doing 20 years ago. I've raced more races than I can recall. And then the last 3 or 4 years, I've kind of been just kind of a one race pony every year, which is fine. But I have a goal this year, and it's February, so we'll see where this goes, to do a better job of just genuinely taking more time for myself. And that's a constant battle for me because, again, and we talk about it frequently, there's always a double-edged sword to loving your job, right? You could hate it, and you could not want to do it, and you're stuck listening to somebody else. And I'm insanely grateful every day that I wake up to have the job, because it's the first thing I think about when I wake up, for real. Like I can't wait to get to work. I can't wait to work with people, even during this time of year where you're far away from races. Like it's a lot to be happy and excited about. And I love it. It's my life, but it's also my 24/7. So, I'm trying to do a better job this week specifically. And then we'll see if it creates momentum into just training and being more intentional with taking time for myself, which is, again, it's a balance that I don't do very well at anymore. But another coach told me maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he said, for every athlete, and this is probably not me because I'm not that athletic level, but for every athlete in Kona, there's 20 other athletes who could have been there but took up coaching and let their dreams fade away.
Ah, really?
And I resonate very much with that. Not that I'm this elite level amateur, because I'm not. And when I'm training a ton. The last grid year I had was 2018. I was fairly quick. I was on the podium at 70.3 race, which isn't anything to snip out. But then you kind of take you coach and you put other people's dreams ahead of yours, and that's part of the gig. So to answer your actual question, I'm training, or I'm trying. Let me totally rephrase. I'm training.
Okay.
I have been exercising the last few months. Because I haven't been too strict, but I will say that the 20-miler I put in at camp was very encouraging. I paced it well. I felt good, so I've been a lot better. I rode yesterday. I swam and ran earlier, so I am training this week. It's about all I'm willing to confidently say that I'm doing, is I am training this week.
Okay. No, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, the idea of coaching and training is a little slippery sometimes. I mean, I remember when I used to work in TV, and then I also like to make side videos and stuff, and for my own and just enjoyment. And then I was like, man, I do this all day, and then I do this all night, and it does get tricky. I mean, I think that's why I've always really appreciated that Cody Beal style thing that we talked about. Like sometimes you just wake up and you kind of feel like what you want to do. And it's trickier to keep in the plan when it's like all you're thinking about and all you're doing. So, but yeah, so I guess you're just kind of laying low and just kind of rolling through it. But it does bring up a good point about work-life balance, and I think that that's one of the tougher things I think about training for triathlon in general. A lot of times I feel like sometimes I'm putting things in and I'm like, damn, I know these people are busy and they're just amazingly able to. But then I think back to when I was working my corporate job, and it seems like that's when I was training my best. It was on a busy schedule. Sometimes like having a lot of flex is trickier because you're like, you can put it off. But, I kind of tend to do that myself. And the next thing you know is I'm watching the Badgers at 10 o'clock at night on the trainer. And to all you Iowa fans out there, we swept you last night.
Ooh. Shots fired. No, you bring up an outstanding point, and we'll go this direction because I think it's actually a really great topic. Is people, we talked about boundaries and setting up schedules and creating structure, and I'm very much the same way. Like if I don't specifically have like a cutoff time or a start time or a block set out, then I just won't do it. I will find a reason and I will find an excuse to keep on working, right? Or then I'm in this interesting, I think, season of life where like with the life that we've created as coaches and I guess professionals is, I can be at home when Hayden, leaves for school. I can be home when Hayden gets home from school. And that's been super important, right? Through 2020, 2021, things, the last year or two and the move, it's been very, very important to me, and I love it. But now he's kind of in this, in where we live, he's always got things to do. I'm kind of realizing that, every day or so he's happy, but the other day he'll walk in the door, hey, Dad, grab a snack, pieces out. He's gone. He's down the street playing cops and robbers. He's playing football. He's doing whatever else. He didn't give a shit. And I do, but he doesn't. So I block my whole day out. Then I'm kind of like, man, I don't have much to do. So yesterday I rode, and I didn't start till after he got home from school. And that was a big deal for me because to be honest, like I struggle with that. And I know parents struggle with this. No, not all parents, but a lot of parents struggle with that, like that guilt of, I didn't have time to do this during the day, or I didn't make time. And the only time I did it was when you're at home. Right. And so I did that. And honestly, I felt guilty the first 30 minutes on the bike. I was like, we could be playing, we couldn't do whatever. He was upstairs building the puzzle. So he couldn't care less. Right. Because we spent a ton of time together. But that's always been one of the hard things for me, is kind of finding that balance between making time for myself. Cause I know that I'm also a better parent when I get done working out. Always. I can leave the house in the morning in a funk, whatever it was, read a whatever, and just kind of like be on the wrong side of the bed. I can go out for a run and I can come back and I'm happy. No matter what. Whether it was a mediocre run, a great run, whether it was in 70 degrees or 10 degrees, I come back a better person. And so I think everyone, and whether you have, kids or not, everyone's in relationships, right? Friendships, relationship with a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You're in a relationship with work. You're in a relationship with life, right? And then most importantly, you're in a relationship, whether you like it or not, with yourself. And we're all better when we train, right? We're all better human beings. We're all, unless you're one of the people who hates everything that you do, which, to be frank, some athletes are like that. They're never happy with anything. And that's unfortunate, but most of us, we're better when we train. And I always find it really fascinating during recovery weeks, how you would think that, all right, you're lessening stress, right? You're taking a little bit of intensity off what they're usually scheduled. You're taking some volume away. You're letting the body adapt. Most athletes by Friday are grumpy as all get out because they're bored. And they use training and the structure of it and the demands of it for, to help them deal and navigate life. And I also find this with myself, like, I use it as well. And triathlon is always difficult for me to, I guess now, to associate balance and a release from professional life, because it is my profession, and letting loose, right? Which is kind of why I always kind of gravitate towards running, because when I'm running, I tend not to think of training in life as much. But when I'm riding, if it's inside or when I'm swimming, I'm still thinking about work. Like if I'm on the bike, I'm thinking about the set that I made up and how this could be used for, X, Y, and Z athlete. If I'm in the pool, I never pre-write my sets for the most part. I just kind of make them up as I go. And then I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is the set. Oh, this would be great for this phase and this person. And I got to remember to write this down when I'm done. So it's always kind of a mess, right? Which is why I've always kind of, if I give up two of the three sports, it's always been cycling and swimming, which running has always just been like the one where I'm determined to get outside. I'm determined to get the fresh air. I'm determined to take time for myself. If I do, it's always first thing in the morning when I wake up. So I wake up and I commit to making myself a priority before I invite all of my athletes or everyone in my house into my life. Mm-hmm. And I think that sounds selfish, but it's actually the best way, in the most positive way most people can start their day, is to take time, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through breath work, whether it's for yoga, a run, a ride, a swim, not picking up your phone. You wake up with a cup, right? And it's full, right? It could be really full because you had a great previous day, or it could be not so full, right? Because you had super stress. So then the first hour of your day, I think, is very, very impactful in setting a tone for how your day is going to go. And if you wake up with an empty cup and the first thing you do is pick up your phone and start doing emails, you're already draining your battery. And if you've got things to do later on that day, you're going to need a full battery, not just to do the workout, but to get yourself to do the workout, right? To convince yourself to have the energy, to have the motivation, the commitment level, to have less energy and to do it. That's why like afternoon sessions are just hard for me, because I've usually, my brain has been drained from the day through training peaks or emails, text messages, whatever. It's just drained. And so it's hard for me to get the energy to convince myself to make time for myself. But if I do it in the morning, not only have I made that time for myself and checked the box, but I've also increased how full my cup is, right? So if it was at 65% and I go out and I run for 45 minutes, or I take waffles for a walk for 45 minutes, I'm doing something for myself. And then I come back and my cup's no longer at 65, it's at 75. And now not only do I not have to worry about making time for myself later in the day, but I'm actually more equipped to take care of other people better. And I think that's generally, triathlon is very similar, I think, to, people always talk about AA being a selfish program, which I disagree in a lot of ways. But what they say about, or the reason they're trying to get across, is that if you don't take care of yourself and you don't do what's required for you, only you, not to drink, then nothing else in life matters. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And I think the same thing goes for a lot of people with training, is that if you, and anything in life, making time for yourself, taking a walk, reading a book, zoning out, watching a movie with your, phone in another room, whatever it is taking that time to recharge your own battery is going to just increase the lifespan every year, every month, every week, every day of the energy level that you have. Because at some point, and I said this verbatim to an athlete early on Monday, once they finally told me what they were kind of going through in life, I said, it sounds to me like 97% of your day is about giving to other people, personally, professionally, with your family, and 3% of it's for you. And that's not only not sustainable, but it's terrible for your health. And you're going to crash and burn very, very, very soon. And that's the best example I can give. You see it, people breathe it, people put themselves last. You got people that are codependent, that have people take care of. It's hard, and there's no perfect balance, but it's all in. But you should never feel selfish. Like, I think you've said this before, and I heard this in AA, and you hear other places that, when you're on a plane, from what I understand, and they talk to them like, put the mask on yourself before you put it on the person next to you. Because if you're not awake and alive and breathing to put on the next person next to you, then none of it matters. Right. You can't take care of the people unless you take care of yourself. So that's a long-winded answer of saying that I rode my bike yesterday and I might run today.
Hey, look, man, I really think that within what's going on in this conversation is one of the more tricky and confounding points of life. It's this whole thing about time for yourself versus time for others, because I always hear and believe that, if you kind of commit to helping others and really commit to it, it makes things smoother and gives you more gratification in a lot of ways. But as we're in a sport like triathlon, where we want to get good and we want to, perform well and all these things, you kind of got to be selfish. I mean, or at least be able to turn it off, and when you said that about the trainer and the pool and how you're always kind of cooking up workouts and things like that, I mean, that can be cooking up workouts or thinking about work for other people, or, just distractive type thing. It's a little harder, I think, just to be distracted when you're running. So I think that's a good point. But I know that I can tell when I'm in a groove. My trainer rides are on, they're my trainer rides. They're not all over the board. I'm on my breath. And the same within the pool. If I got a mantra going, I'm swimming. It's so easy to go to the pool. You're waiting on a text message from somebody or whatever, and then you put your phone away and you get in the pool. But you're kind of like, damn, I wonder what they said, or what, you got something going on. It's like, that to me is the essence of training well, is to be in the moment with your training. And I think it does tend to be a little bit harder on the bike and in the pool. But, I think everything's on a continuum. So this idea of being selfish or, doing things for others all the time, I think it can, if it slides to one end too far, that's when the problems come out, and you get, you look at the best athletes in the world. I say selfish with air quotes because they're just determined and focused. And it's like, you're not going to be the best unless you're, selfish to a point. I mean, Michael Jordan's, Michael Phelps, whatever. I mean, they had to really, to get to levels like that, you really need to be 100% committed and just go after it. I mean, I don't think most people even understand what that means to that level. You know what I mean? It's like, we can work hard. And so we just kind of get our little chunks of that. And, smaller doses where we just really turn in and kind of get, I always think about it as when I get on the trainer or if I'm riding or whatever, I get into my breath. That's when I know I'm winning. But if I'm starting to think about shit all over the place and, it just kind of turns into a half-ass ride or whatever, and which is fine too, But the hardest part sometimes for training is to clear your head when you're doing whatever you're doing and really being in that process, because you can do that, and when you get in the pool, it's like you just start going, and if you find that groove, that place where you're not even, you're not thinking about anything, you're just breathing and feeling the water. Next thing you know, you got 4,000 in, and it's like, wow, that was something. But then there's these other ones where you're trying to do 1,500 and you're thinking about work and whatever else is going on, and you can't get shit going. So it's just a really interesting topic to me, is like how far, as a triathlete, do we push, and be a little bit selfish, or can you, like, if you can articulate that in your brain to carve out those times and you just kind of go off the grid, even though you're on the grid, you know what I mean?
100%. And it's so weird because, like, you think about, and again, and we mentioned this before, how the word selfish is used in such a negative way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Selfish, self-centered, like those are things but I think everyone has to find something in life that they can be selfish about. That's just theirs. That's only theirs. But that they know impacts them greatly in all the other areas of life that they've committed to being unselfish about. And that's just a fact. You can't just give and never take care of yourself. And you have people that'll say that, right? Oh, I just love taking care of people. And well, at some point they burn out. They get tired of it. And then they do the exact opposite. Like, there has to, and I think there's, people always talk, and we talk about balance a lot, and balance. And there really is no such thing, right? It's balance. No one has equal balance anywhere. It's impossible, right? You have like these top 1, 2, or max 3 things you care most about in life, and they take up 90% of your energy. And the rest just gets 10%, whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not. That's just the case. So you have to be aware of that. And I think one of the biggest places triathletes get trapped in is committing to calling themselves a triathlete and then be so unwilling to give that name up by doing something different. Mm-hmm. I think in the past, like 3 to 4 years, we've had so many athletes, go from what they call triathletes only doing triathlons to just running, or just stop swimming and do riding and running, or do different things, or doing gravel races, or, this last weekend we had, we got somebody doing the Berkey this weekend. Last week we had a guy doing 100K, half marathons, open water swims. It's like, find something in life that you can be selfish about, but not make it your identity. Right. And I think that's where we get so swept up and caught in triathlon or cycling or running or swimming or whoever we are and whoever we label ourselves as, because people like to label because it makes you part of a group. That's just human nature. Right. But when you talk about yourself and the best thing I can tell people is to refuse to affiliate with one thing, period. Or just refuse to affiliate with anything. Because what it does is it opens up your options to everything, right? If you call yourself a triathlete, then let's say that life is it changed a lot for you. You don't have time to make it to the bike, right? Or to get on the bike for an hour or 2 hours, but that's your goal. And you've come off a running show. All you want to do is swim. Well, then where are you caught, right? You're caught daily degrading yourself. I only swim, right? You're an athlete that chooses to do endurance sport, chooses to do, adventure races, that chooses to do whatever the fuck you want to do that makes you feel good about yourself. Right? Like, but so many athletes sacrifice, what they know in their heart would be good for themselves because they've identified and affiliated with a group of athletes, and that's only what they do. And then they hate their training because they can't do it the way they think they could, but all they really need to do would be to half the amount of volume that they're doing, take the 6 hours that they're given instead of, scheduling themselves for 12 every week and feeling like a failure when they only do 6 and being unhappy about it. Commit to 6 hours and find something in life that allows for 6 hours of your best effort, 6 hours of your own time. Think how much better you'll feel. But they don't. They're just so attached, again, to this affiliation of whatever it is. Runners are the same thing, marathon runners, or road cycling or gravel riding or mountain biking or, everyone likes to do that, right? Call themselves that. And I've always kind of like been not weird, I guess, when people are like, hey, what do you do for a living? I just say I coach endurance athletes. I don't coach triathletes, I coach endurance athletes. Yeah, so a wide margin of our athletes primarily use triathlon as their outlet, but a lot of them do. I mean, a bunch. If you went down the list of the different things that we've had athletes do in the last 2 years, you wouldn't think it was a triathlon team. You would think it was a team of endurance sports adventure junkies, which is what it is. And that's the flexibility of going with what season of life is telling you, but you have to listen, and then you have to act upon it. And then you have to have the courage to make a step that actually makes your life better by listening to what your life is asking from you and then telling yourself what you need in return. That's not selfish. It's called listening, right? I mean, it said on one of the last 2 podcasts, like your biggest fan should be you. 100%. Your biggest fan should be you. Not everybody else, but yourself. You should love what you're doing. You should be confident in what you're doing. You should be positive with your self-talk. But most people don't. They're hard on themselves. Why can't I make time for this? Why can't I, do this better? Everybody else is doing this. And then, then the rest of your time is spent giving, right? Giving time to your kids, giving time to your spouse, giving time to your job, giving your time to social media, giving your time to the news, giving your time to the neighborhood, board of directors, the school, everything that life asks of you each day. Right? Bills, responsibilities, making yourself lunch, making a snack, taking your dog out, all these things, right? They all require and ask something of you, but you don't take 1 minute to do something for yourself each day, right? Or if you do, you're spent thinking about something else. And I'm telling you this from personal experience, because that's what I find myself doing a lot is you give. And if you don't make time for yourself, and the reason I say frequently, when I'm the best coach when I'm training myself is not from a scientific standpoint, right? For me, what I'm learning about myself through training, it's that I have more to give other people, right? My cup is full, or its percentage is increased each day for the most part. It's full. And it's a very hard thing for people to, I guess, accept. And most people accept it too late, right? They don't want to give up that they signed up for a marathon, 10 months ago, and now their life is drastically different, and they don't have the time for it. And they know they should drop down, but they just won't. They refuse. And so they're miserable in the lead up, and they're miserable during the race. And guess what? You're miserable afterwards because you didn't get your time, and you're destroyed. When the best thing you could have done and been happy doing it was to lessen your volume, do something appropriate, sign up for the 10K, rip it, wake up that day, rock it out, and then wake up the next day and think, you know what, I feel pretty good. That was actually fun. And then maybe that's sparks something else. But most people get in this different mode and create this negative momentum in their life. They can't take time, or they feel like it's too selfish. And it is. It's the great debate among parents and dad guilt and mom guilt for taking too much time and doing this and doing that. And I'm one of them. Like I love spending time with Hayden. I love doing things with him. I love having that extra time. And then so I don't take some time for myself, and I know I should, to actually be a better parent when I'm taking that time with him. Right? Because then I also look down the street, on a random day, and I see 0 other parents outside with their kids. Right. Not that I'm the greatest parent, but I see 0 other parents. Right. I'm doing that. They're all inside, or they're doing whatever. They, started having wine at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Wednesday because that's what they do. You don't see anybody. And so again, I feel like I do a pretty good job, but still it's hard for me to take that time to myself to do it. So it's like, hey, you can spend 3 hours with these people you want to spend time with and be good for, but maybe you're doing 3 hours of good where you could spend an hour for yourself and be 2 hours of great, which has the most impact. right? And you're also showing, your children or your spouse or your friends or your coworkers what it's like to be committed, and then the benefit that comes from it, right? You're setting an example. You're being an example, right? You're a living lesson to those things. And I think it's a very, very hard thing. And I have this conversation, maybe I think monthly. You probably do too, where an athlete says, "Man, I know I signed up for this race, and I really want to do it, but right now is just not the time." And I say, it's about time, right? You had this realization, and I'm happy for you that you've you've released this burden. And I'm thankful, because I cringe when you keep asking for training, and I know you're not going to do it, or know you can't do it, and it's going to make you feel guilty. Or as a coach, you sometimes broach that very tender, sensitive subject, right? Which is, what are your thoughts on maybe just running this year? What are your thoughts on not doing a full this year? Right? What are your thoughts on dropping that race? Right? And it has nothing to do with their performance, right? Or the accolades they might get or not get. It's not about caring about their race. It's about caring for the person, right? And what's going to make them the happiest. And I have yet to meet an athlete or work with an athlete that has changed the trajectory of their training and it not been a huge positive and a huge win, right? To do this and to do things and to create more space in their life and create more opportunities for them to be successful. And I think that phrase right there is, I think, one of the biggest obstacles we all have is creating more opportunities to be successful. Instead of adding more and giving more, we should really focus on creating more opportunities for ourselves to be more successful each day.
You said, what do I need? That's a question that I think we need to ask ourselves a lot and really understand. Like, when I think about that, like, I think back to, things like when we go to run camp, I get in these routine, that's a routine for me because we're getting up early, we're around people, and that shit is always good for me. But then I get back into my little isolated space or whatever, free space, and I kind of let that slide away. And it just kind of snowballs on top of each other, all the responsibilities or whatever it may be. And then you create passive time. And it's funny because I said I didn't sleep last night, and you're like, "Did you watch YouTube?" And I'm like, no, a little bit, but I hate it. I don't hate it because I think it's great. There's so many good things out there, but it's such a crutch sometimes. And I always wonder if I'm actually using my time in a valuable way. And it doesn't have to be, something majestic, but for me, I think writing or doing something, I just think that with all the stuff we got going on, there's so much going on, and we're always easily distracted by it, and it just kind of mounts on top of each other, and it kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm getting older, and I feel like, man, time is slipping away, man. It's like, are we going to take advantage of this or not? I'm not talking to myself, and do shit that you want to do because, like you said, I mean, people can change, if the training becomes a hardship or it's too much or you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you got to step back and really decide what you want to do. And, I was talking about last time, I was like, you got to get clear in your head, so what you're thinking and your decisions are correct, because a lot of times it can be so muddy. It's difficult to figure out. So I guess I'll just, I just keep getting that routine. I think for me, a big thing, I think it all starts with sleep, to be honest, and a good sleeping schedule, because everything just kind of works better. When you're in a good spot, you get up and you get a little routine going. And I know you're way better at that than me. And it's so powerful. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but just to kind of get in the right space. And I think a lot of it has to do with how I've been, the last year and a half has kind of been a little bit of an upheaval and temporary and not settled and things like that. But, moving forward is all you got. And I think, I don't know. I just really want to get the routine going is what I'm saying, because you were talking about balance earlier, and is there such a thing as balance? And while I think balance is fluid, you know, I think you can be more stabilized. Maybe stable is a little bit better way of putting it, because, you know, I think about like, I'm just grateful I've always had yoga in my head and in my body, and a lot of times that gives me balance, but it translates into mental balance. And I think that's really the ultimate reason people do yoga, is to have sort of a mental stability and a clarity on things. So just keep, you just keep working towards finding it. And it's, you know, it's kind of elusive. It's liquid in a way.
You nailed it. Like, because that's where creating habits and routines, like, I mean, I gave a much better habit and routine than you do, but a lot of times I actually envy that about you, because you can be a lot, seriously, no shit. Like this morning I wake up, I didn't set my alarm because I'm up at 5, you know this, or sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 3:45, sometimes it's 5:30, but I'm usually up early. So I don't set my alarm because I'm up fucking 5 o'clock every morning.
Mm-hmm.
But I told myself yesterday I wanted to run this morning. In my habit, right, in my routine, the past 6 months, right, since we moved here, was to get up, and the first thing I did was to walk Waffles. That was it. My dog, right, and that's what dogs are best, because it doesn't matter what I do, they're gonna love me to death, right? He's not gonna know I'm not talking to him today. He didn't walk me, right? I'm gonna go piss on his leg. I'm not gonna tell him. I'm not gonna run up to him and wag my tail. Dogs love me no matter what. It's probably the best. But I got up to 5:15 and I did the math, and I was like, and I drop off Hayden at school early at 7:45. Then I got them. He's going to get ready. I'll be too stressed. So, you know what I did? Walk my dog.
Yeah.
Instead of doing something for me. And it was fucking cold, so it was only a mile. But that was my thought, because I'm so entrenched in my habit and routine that getting off of it and creating a slightly different where I put myself first is challenging and uncomfortable. And so I think, routines are great. But I think like this balance between stability and flexibility is huge. And I have the utmost respect and honestly admiration for athletes that I work with that are so unbelievably flexible but structured at the same time, right? They are the epitome of flexible in the fuck around. They will flex everything but still be structured. And it to me it's awesome. I love it. It's something I aspire to, but it's finding that, again, it's not balance, but finding that that boundary between giving yourself the right amount of time, minutes, a day, a week, a month, versus what you give. And it's almost never going to be, proportionate. But some people, right? Some people fill their cup by giving, and a lot of people do. I do, but you can only do that so much before you need to top off, right? You need to take some time for yourself, and it's a challenging conversation everyone has, right? I think with themselves and being, but it takes, and the other thing is it takes a lot of courage to do that, to shift, right? Your thoughts, your focus from whatever it is to doing something else, right? It takes courage to do that. And I think it takes confidence to believe you're going to stick with it and make the time. Because I think to an extent, I think that's scary for a lot of people. We like to tell ourselves that, I just give a lot. I don't have time, but you got time. You got time. Mm-hmm. You just don't make it.
Yeah, that's
right.
What
You
I mean.
Make it for yourself. You spend your downtime wasting it, right? Thinking about other people or on social media or just strictly boredom, right? Where you could be intentional with the day. And I think that's what structure provides athletes is the opportunities to be intentional each day, right? And to take time with themselves. That's why, even the best coaches in the world have coaches, right? Everyone needs one, because it's not about just making sure you're getting the right training, but it's about being intentional and putting yourself, first and foremost. And I said this to an athlete before we got on the podcast. I said, I don't give a shit what you do the next 3 days, but you better get out of the house and do something for 30 minutes a day, period. Walk, run, hike, walk backwards, roll down the street. Don't care what it is, but get your ass out of the house and move. That's what it's about, is because if you don't, and again, about creating, positive or negative momentum, the longer you don't, the longer you won't. That's just a fact. because it's harder to get back on.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very, very challenging. And so it is. I think it's a healthy conversation people to have every year. That's why signing up for races 2 years in advance, life changes on a dime. It changes on a dime, and things are drastically different. Right. So you have to be flexible, but stable in your beliefs and with your own boundaries with life and structure to make sure you're taking time for yourself. And that 30 minutes is better than no minutes. Right. If you can't get an hour and 10, get 40. You still chose yourself first. And that's the win. Right. And it won't always be perfect. You might not hit every workout and nail it, but you made the effort and the intent was there, because what you're doing is creating that extra pattern of intention to take time for yourself or to explore other opportunities. You got people picking up pickleball and intramural basketball and all this kind of whatever keeps your juices flowing. And you're seeing a huge resurgence in what became popular in 2020, which is basically do all your shit alone. Now everyone wants to do something with somebody else because we're a social species, whether you like it or not, myself included. You need to be around people. It makes you feel better. And guess what? It takes you out of yourself, right? Thinking about other people, but just being around other people is what's good for you. And it's energizing, and it kind of kills two birds with one stone, right? Because when you're around people, you don't think you're giving to them. You're collectively as a group, using the group's energy to lift everyone up, right? You can't do that alone. And that's why it's a hard, difficult balance, but I think an area in which everyone should challenge themselves and explore is, am I doing the right thing? Am I training for the right thing, right? Am I treating myself with respect? Am I headed the right direction? If I'm not, what can I do to create success in my training life and in my regular life, right? Or am I just, okay being miserable and creating chaos? Because those are two very, very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you said flexible with structure, and that really just stuck out to me. Because all this stuff is really a gray area, and I have a thing when you talk about too, but it's just get the integrity of the workout. If you're not quite feeling it, and there's so many times when I try to say, hey, if you got 15 intervals and you're just not feeling like doing intervals today, just don't do them for the first. Maybe think about doing half of them or something, or just getting a few of them in, or whatever the case may be, or not doing any of them, but just adjusting. And flexible with structure, that's what it means to me. I think there's so many gray areas in training where you have to be kind of cognizant of that, and you have to understand where you're at mentally, physically, and socially, whatever's going on. And back to your point about doing stuff with other people, man, there's just no question. I think the energy that you get from other people is just palpable. It's a real thing. I think science would say it's a real thing, and I've heard that people's aura actually reaches out 6 feet, and it's like a real thing, which is kind of an interesting number if you think about it. And how being around other people can just inspire you to, or almost take you out of your shit, That's kind of where I think about it. It's sort of like, come on, let's just try it or whatever. And you want to be part of it. And there's something really magical about that. And I think a lot of times, that's what we do as coaches, is try to be there for people. It's a sort of a different sort of, community vibe, but, support being around people and everything like that. But how do you get the flexibility with the structure? And to me, that's just having a clear head and really kind of being mindful. I always talk about like Zen and shit like that. And, there's the middle way. And that's always, so powerful to me. I don't think you can beat that sort of philosophy. Is kind of like you said, don't really cling to anything in particular, but just be kind of flexible in the middle of it and not get too far out on the edges, because that's when shit gets crazy and you start thinking different. You kind of, when you get obsessed or you get out of the box and kind of move away from your stable core, you start making bad decisions, and I think overreacting or whatever the case may be. So I think I'm going to call the cast flexible with structure, because
I like it, man. It sounds good to me.
Yeah.
It's, I think most people, and myself included, I think all people struggle with the identity of what we truly, honestly, like at our core, know to be true about what's best for us versus what a previous version of ourselves sees us as being best set up for. Or, and this is the one I think is the most challenging, what we believe what we believe and see other people wanting us to do. I think that is one of the most difficult things in life, is to divide and, section off and understand the three heads of that monster of your identity, right? At your core, in your heart, this is what I know to be true about myself, and what's really best for me is doing this, right? This one thing. But I think my friends will probably like it more if I do this. Maybe I can do a few things. Maybe they'll be more proud of me if I do this, right? Or, well, you've always been a triathlete and you've always done these races. You should do that. 9 times out of 10, most people listen to the latter two. What you choose to do what you previously told yourself you should do, regardless of current, events. Or this is also super common. You choose to do what you believe you think other people want you to do. And so again, you take time to do something, quote unquote, for yourself, but at the genesis of it, you're doing it because you believe other people want you to do it. Yeah. So you're not doing anything for yourself, right? And the fact is that if you just asked other people what they thought you should do, they would tell you the answer that you told yourself at the beginning, which is just do this or do whatever makes you happy, right? Like at least your best friends would. Just do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy and don't care about the rest. Oh, I thought you really wanted me to do this, and I don't give a fuck. Just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have this conversation all the time with athletes. I thought you'd be disappointed. I don't care what you do, right? Give up all the sports and do whatever, but we'll keep working with you to do anything. And it's about being happy, but it's so many athletes and just people, right? They pick jobs that they think are gonna give them more prestige, right? Because their parents wanted them to do it.
Check.
Right? They joined the same church their parents did because they thought that's what they were supposed to do. They affiliated with a specific political party because that's what their parents did. And they figured out 30 years later, they don't have any idea what they want in life because all they've been doing is doing what they thought other people wanted them to do, right? But people that really love you, people that really care about you, including yourself, right? They just want you to be happy, period. Just want you to be happy. And you should want that for yourself more than anybody else wants that for you. It's not selfish. It's called self-care, right? And that's how people create their own happiness, is doing what they really want to do instead of, what they think other people want to do. You're living other people's lives. And it's a dreadful, dreadful way to live. And it becomes people get sucked into it because then they lose their identity. And that was one of the very first things I remember learning about myself when I got out of treatment. Was during treatment, I was having this conversation with other guys in the house, and I had, grew up in a Church of Christ background. I drank all the time. I had all these years and decades of guilt and shame, and weren't supposed to do this, and weren't allowed to do that, and you need to be this, or you can't be that. And I remember somebody was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't even know.
Right.
I don't even know if I like this or not. Yeah. Right. Or why, because you say, I don't like that. And then you ask yourself, what? Do I really not like it? Or is that just what I told myself I didn't like? And so I began to challenge myself on my belief system of the words that came out of my mouth. It was like, I don't do that. That's kind of like when people say, I don't like hills. Why not? I just don't. And you might be great at them. You just convince yourself not. And so you become, it's so hard to kind of peel back those layers of the onion, to really figure out what it is and who you are and what you want. And it's all changing, right? And that's the hard part, is it's a moving target. It's not set in stone.
Yeah. In the words of one of our favorite authors, Charles Bukowski, don't try. And
yeah, right.
Well, and that just always fascinated me when I would read that, and he'd say it a lot and everything like that. And I was like, don't try it. You know, that's kind of like, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. It's kind of like that thought process in a way, but that doesn't mean it's, you don't try. It means, like, I always now interpret it as don't try to be somebody you're not, or don't try to please other people that don't care about you. Things like that. And that kind of stuff is so powerful to me, is when you can get in your own space and be comfortable and confident with who you are and what you want to do. And, you know, a lot of times that comes with, you know, cutting things off and cutting people off, and it's tough, but, you know, you can't, you know, I don't know, you just see it so many times where people just go down same roads, and me included, just to kind of keep the old dream alive, or whatever you want to call it, glory days kind of thing.
Glory days. It's you, and we can end it there. That perfectly said, right? Is if you find yourself as an athlete or a person only getting 65% of the way in the same journey, year in and year out and year in and year out, wouldn't it be nice to be able to find a journey that's right for you, where you can go to the end every year? Mm-hmm. Do it well, do it awesome, do it with people, but they don't, right? And it was so great. It was perfect, like the way you said it. It was like, but so many people do it the opposite, right? And we say this frequently, in that, you know, people usually figure out what season of life they're in about a year or two after they've been in it.
Yep.
It's never immediate. It's never, it's never during it, because you're always constantly fighting that battle of, yeah, but I wanted to go here, but now I'm not here. But you're just constantly butting heads, and you're going, think about, two rams, seeing that's what it looks like. Just butting at it, going nowhere. No one's winning. Both are losing. You're going nowhere. So choose to go somewhere, wherever it is, whatever direction it is, whether it's swimming, cycling, running, whatever. Find something, right? Find something to go and go somewhere with it, right? Not the same dead end you've been going on, right? But it'll be different this year. But guess what? If you're not different, it won't be different. So choose to make a difference this year, and not just yourself, but in those around you. If you're looking for a coaching group to help you make that difference, look us up. C26triathlon.com is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. You click on the coaches tab, figure out which one is right for you. If you need anything from Mike, he's available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. That'll wrap it up.
Go make a difference, man.
I'm going to go make a difference. Shovel some ice and scrape some windows.
You're a good man. Put on that robe and do your thing.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See you, dude.